Hello and welcome to Season 4, Episode 5 of Les Oderants. I am Dan and I am joined, as ever, by Ben and James and this week's superstar guest, Tom. Say hello, Ben, James and Tom.
Hello.
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 Hello. Right, good. So, there was basically about as
high energy as always.
It usually is. Super high energy. We come flying in, straight out of the blocks there. So, Tom is Insta famous as the scentiest, aren't you, Tom? That is how you pronounce it, isn't it? The scentiest.
You can pronounce it however you want. Yeah, it's the scentiest. Yeah, and the idea behind the name was I'm dyslexic, right?
Oh.
And I like the idea that it looks like a scientist. A
scientist.
It looks like a scientist that's got dyslexia. But also it's like I at the time I was big into like overspraying. I really wanted to smell my perfumes, so I used to overspray them. And I'm pleased to say I've changed my ways, but the idea was that calling myself the scentiest is like saying I'm the smelliest,
the most scented.
Was there a moment where you went like, no, I've gone down the wrong path here and stopped? Was there like a traumatic period where like sort of event that stopped you overspraying? Or
I once wore Liwa by Wydian to a Christmas party and regretted it because that thing just goes and goes and goes, and I felt so awkward that we'd gone to this amazing restaurant in London in some tower, and I must have destroyed that beautiful meal of sushi for everybody. It was just it's not the done thing.
Yeah, Liwa and sushi sounds like a terrible mix.
Terrible.
Do you know what? That's an interesting point. I've only ever been sort of super self-conscious that I've oversprayed perfume once, and it was years and years ago, and it was MFK Apom. I have no idea how you pronounce that, but it's sort of neroli, very powdery neroli thing, and I remember spraying about 50 sprays of it in John Lewis, going, oh yeah, I'll try this one. Fucking perfume everywhere. And then I had to go to the physio later that evening, and I just remember lying on the physio table with this kind of overpowering stench of like neroli talcum powder. It was horrible. I mean, it completely ruined the perfume for me as well. But on the whole, I don't believe overspraying is a thing. I mean, don't sort of wear too much perfume at kind of funerals and other people's weddings and such like. But as a general rule, day to day, just fucking, go for it. Fill your boots, I reckon.
I go with the rule of like moderation being key these days. I once wore Vogue's Mai to a meeting with my chief executive and regretted that. There's just some things
Is that the lavender
some
one?
things you do and some things you don't do.
Is my very lavender heavy?
Big tuberose.
It's very vintage, very whiskey. Yeah, tuberose, animalics, creamy, blah. Yeah.
Well, match the fragrance to the situation, I think. But Tom, the scentiest, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Tom is, of course, standing in place of Fliss, who is on a sabbatical. She will be back, don't worry. So for everyone who's written in to complain that there are far too many penises in this episode, but I like to think we're not a particularly laddie podcast anyway, but it is fair to say that we are missing Fliss. But Tom, you will be a pretty adequate substitute, I imagine. And if you're not, who cares? It's only podcasting. It's not really that big a deal.
If you shit, it'll be fine. We'll just cut it out.
I'll get my coat. Get my coat now.
Yeah. If you fit. Well, you definitely fit. Actually, sorry, that was a Freudian slip. But this is how attractive Tom is for our listeners. Tom and I were having a coffee in London.
Oh, I remember this anecdote. I remember this. I thought you might bring this one up.
Well, it's absolutely true. We're having a cup of coffee, and I'm not kidding. The server who brought over our coffees could not take her eyes off Tom, and he barely acknowledged her. He was sort of just like, "Oh yeah, thanks for the coffee." And she, honestly, if kind of if I could have bottled whatever it was that Tom had done at that very moment, I could have made an absolute fortune, because she more or less threw herself at him and he didn't even notice.
You could definitely make some lovely adverts for that product.
Yeah. What, the product that I just bottled, you mean?
Yeah, like, for example, that awful advert that I sent you guys earlier, if anyone...
Oh my fucking God, is that an actual real... was that on TV?
It was on the television. It was...
It must have been on some bullshit channel, though.
ITVX, in between the darts, so... yeah.
Right, okay.
That was the demographic it was going for. But what was it? What was the name of the perfume? It was something awful.
Gravité.
Parfum or something. And
by Particle.
Yes. If we haven't seen it, right, it's basically what do they call them when they're sort of use pretend paid actors, but they pretend that they're real people, and they basically got these three women who are were like classy, middle-aged kind of women with evening dresses on, and they put blindfolds on them in a room, and they had a man in a suit with a particularly cheap pair of loafers walk in, or Oxfords, wasn't it? And then walk around the room whilst they kind of sniffed the air like a dog sniffing for his dinner, and saying like, "Oh, I like a bit of this on my plate," and then he walked out again, and they were all disappointed that he'd left.
Oh, where's he gone?
Oh, they sort of lick their lips as well. I'm just looking.
It was grim, really grim.
There's a lip licking, and there's a sort of there's a pout, and it was terrible. But it
I've never heard of that fragrance either. What the fuck?
No, it's one of these. It's all over Facebook. The adverts for it. It's I think it's definitely a bit of you, James. But it was clearly channeling 50 Shades of Grey, wasn't it? Like the whole aesthetic. But I love the idea that that's marketed during the darts. It sort of says a lot about the demographic.
Yeah.
I know. We've got these people with cheap shit shoes. We should definitely put this advert on during the darts. Do you wear cheap shoes and want to get laid? If so, probably you're watching the darts. That was horrific. And for anyone listening, if you've got the time, I strongly advise seeking this out. Particle by... No, not Particle by Gravité. It was Gravité by Particle. Not that anyone gives a shit. I mean, they may as well have just called it fucking, Sex Panther or something, because that's clearly what they were going for. And something tells me it's a clone of Dior Sauvage. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
I would bet you dollars to donuts it's a Sauvage clone. You just have to look at it. Anyway, right, so let's talk a little bit about other perfumes. James, have you worn anything interesting and exciting this week?
No, not really. No, I have.
No.
Unless the 414 comes back, I don't keep track, unfortunately.
You won't keep a record of anything, will you?
I know it's my own, it's down to me to bring it back, but it's just kind of like, yeah.
Right.
And, do you know what?
One extreme or the other, isn't it? It's just like, you get the lot or you get nothing. Now, fuck off.
That's right.
I'll tell you what, James, right? Can we take an exec, right? Because I think the next episode probably ends up being our last before Christmas. So can we take an exec and say, we need a full 14? Okay?
Yeah, I think...
Please, keep detailed records.
Yeah, and I do... The thing is, I've been having a few days where I haven't been wearing perfume, you know this. I'm not disillusioned with perfume. I'm not, I'm perfectly happy with my own... Because people like start to think, do you like hate perfume now? Have you like lost your like interest in it and stuff? And it's like, you're a bit of a dickhead. You've got like a massive cupboard full of them. But it's not even that. It's just some days I haven't been wearing it at all, and I feel quite sort of liberated and like happy about that. And then when I put it on, I'm equally as happy. So, like I wore the other week, I wore Fahrenheit Parfum. So the Fahrenheit Parfum,
yes,
it was, loads of people, right, and maybe rightly so, slagged off Demachy, certainly towards the end of his tenure, right? But like Ben brought one up the other week that those like some of those later ones in the posh range collection, whatever it's called, Maison, fucking whatever, you know the one I mean. The main, the Dior fancy bottles. like Purple Oud. That was a good one, you know. I tried that again the other week. I really liked that. Some of those were like, you know, fairly creative, and it's only with a bit of hindsight, like a few years down the line, you're like, have loads of other shite coming out. You're like, oh, actually, that other kind of mediocre shit was quite good. But no, I think Demachy gets a hard time, and I think the Fahrenheit Parfum is incredible, right? He took like an iconic, you know, fragrance that is like beloved to a lot of people, me included, and he made something like different with it. And yeah, it's a bit kind of vanillic, but it's got this weird like cumin-y kind of spice in there, and it's got like rummy sort of like boozy kind of smell to it. But it's also got that like signature Fahrenheit. I think that was a good job that he did. I think he did a really good thing on that. And for example,
it's interesting though that someone who loves Fahrenheit as much as you as well is prepared to be sort of complimentary about that as a flanker, because you know a lot of purists would sort of go, well, you know, they hate anything that's like a deviation. I'm sure a lot of the Creed Aventus fan twats were like, oh, this cologne is shit, and this Absolute is bullshit, and just anything that isn't, just give me more of the same. So I like the fact that you're such an enthusiast for the original and you appreciate the flanker.
Give credit where it's due, right? There was loads of shit.
Amen.
There was loads of shit Fahrenheit flankers. Aqua Fahrenheit. That can fuck off, right? That was dog shit, right?
I don't think I've tried it.
You don't want to. It was rubbish. Then they did like a sort of cologne one. They did like a summer one a few years ago, and then they did that white one, which was just basically kind of an orange blossom type one, which was a bit like a bit like Fleur
that had
de
a
Mal.
number.
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
Like
I think there was one with
23 or 31 or
some shit
fucking,
like that. Yeah. That one was all right, actually, you know, but it's a total departure from the original. It's that thing of they're either too much like the original to the point where you're like, what's the point? You've just kind of ruined what was a good idea, or they just complete departure and not even related to the original. But this has the perfect blend of both, and I think it's very good. And I wore it one day, and I had so much on my clothes, right? And I was like, you know, I'm a man. I don't like to wear different clothes every day. If they're not rank, do you know what I mean? I'll just wear them like the next day. So I wore it the next day, and I was like, I put so much on, I don't even need to wear perfume because I still smell of it from yesterday.
Nice.
And that was fine, you know. So
Nice.
I've basically become a slob. No, I've got
I
this.
appreciate that.
Right?
I think that's good.
So I've got this here.
What is this?
This is called
Build and Destroy.
Build and Destroy. I'm wearing it today, and it's by prepare for our lawyers to step in on this one, but it's by Azzy Glazer. Do you know who she is?
Oh, the Perfumer's Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on her?
I don't think I've actually tried any of them.
What about her as a person?
I thought it was a dude, so I mean that's about as much as I know.
Nice.
So I can offer you nothing.
Anyone else? What about you, Tom? You ever heard of Perfumer's Story?
I've heard of her. I'm trying to think why, and I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
Didn't she do? There was something that she did that wasn't it like a tie-in with a movie, like a James Bond one or something?
Yes. So she is. Again, I mean, am I going to be careful about what I say? I don't really fucking care.
I don't think it matters. You know.
No, I mean, but well, it depends how mean I'm going to be. No, basically,
be as mean as you like.
No, she's a kind of what strikes me as a kind of London sort of socialite type person, right? Who has got this kind of niche within a niche of having a perfume brand where she offers consultations to people who have got a few quid to come and sit down with her, and she's got all materials in her house. She occasionally does live streams and stuff like that and talks about them, and she'll talk about materials, right? But she's very much another Roger Dove in that you're like, I don't believe that you're making these perfumes. I'm sorry, love, but like,
She's an impresario.
I don't buy it. Like, and it doesn't really matter either, right? But like, the idea is that it's the perfumer's story and that she's the perfumer, and she makes things for roles for people. So she's done one for who's that English actor who's a twat?
Well, there's quite a lot of them. Is he the penguin guy? Benedict Cumberbatch?
No. He's all right. What are you calling him a twat for? No, like Jude Law.
He's all right. He's not. Well, I suppose he's a twat.
He is. He's a bit like, oh yeah, I'm doing all this like.
I'm Jude Law.
I'm not even going to start. But she's like, you know, mates with him and Johnny Depp, and she does like perfumes for them. For she did one for him for like they went to Glastonbury together or something, and she did a perfume for him, and she does things for roles that people do. So
that's it.
Yeah, so they come to her and
that's what I remember it from.
Roles,
like roles in films.
She does these perfumes to help actors get into the character.
Oh God. Oh yes.
They might not always smell good. They don't always smell good. You know, like some of them can smell like bad, like dungeons and things like that.
Yeah, wasn't there one that she did for the guy you just said is a twat? For some movie role recently.
She did. Okay. Yeah. She may be very good at that. But, I mean, she may be very good at sitting down with the actual people and then going to whoever makes her perfumes for her and going, can we make this?
It's quite a niche, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, I might be being grossly unfair, right? And there's a chance that she makes these perfumes herself and she could be like, look, fuck you, dude. Like, I make them. And I'd be like, sorry. Okay. But I
just for anyone listening back, James inserted that afterwards on the advice of our lawyers. It wasn't. No, he didn't really say that. You should be able to be free to be skeptical and speak your mind and be like, look, I think something's a bit fishy here. And the whole point is, it doesn't matter if you say, look, I'm like a creative director. This is my brand. It goes in the direction that I want it to go in, and that means that I then take it to a perfumer. I'd much rather that than someone makes shit perfumes. Do you know what I mean? Because the actual stuff from the perfumer's story is pretty good. Do you know what I mean? It's all right. Like, she's got one called Old Books, which kind of is like an amber that kind of sort of smells like old books. She's got kind of reasonably creative sort of other ones. They're not all just, we've got a floral one, I've got this one, I've got that. They have got a bit of a story behind them, and they're okay, you know? They're all right. Anyway, Build and Destroy, what I'm wearing today, is very much a bit of a kind of aroma chemical nightmare. So it says incense, musk and oud. The interesting thing about this is that it's a collaboration. So it's a collaboration with James Lavelle. Do you know who James Lavelle is? What, Nightmares on Wax?
Furiously Googles James Lavelle.
Yeah,
the
like
DJ.
No, Moax. Yeah, so he was like Moax. Yeah, Moax Records. So that he was like the label boss of that, and he did do some like DJing and stuff. But he's basically like the equivalent of Azzy Glazer to the music world, right? So he's kind of a guy who really, again, I'm not saying he hasn't got any talent or anything, but he's not a musician himself, right? And he's not really a producer himself, but he's the kind of person that like he knew fucking Richard Ashcroft from The Verve, he knew this person, he knew that, and he did that Uncle album, if you remember, from the early 2000s with DJ Shadow, right? Which is a fucking seminal album. It's one of my like favorite albums. It was like maybe 1999 did it come out, I don't know. Anyway, great album, science fiction, and it had loads of like cool, quite a lot of British musicians on there. But it was all beats produced by, you know, there's like a Tom York song, and there's a, like say, there's a Richard Ashcroft one, there's an Ian Brown one, there's a, you know, and they were all really cool.
I'd just like to say that Ian Brown is a cunt.
Yeah, okay.
He's an absolute cunt. I just, you know, for the record.
But the song on that, I mean, all the tracks, because the good thing is with his one, there's an instrumental one, and so you can take him off it if you don't want to listen. But the beats by DJ Shadow are like amazing, and it is really good, and it's like a great record. So anyway, he did that, but he's kind of seen as a bit of a like that's kind of what he does, and he hangs around with, you know, people, and he's seen places and that, and he's not really, there's not a huge amount of like substance in terms of like what he's actually done in the music
like
world.
Robbie Williams' mate. whatever he
probably
was
is
called.
mates with Robbie Williams. That's the thing. This
Yeah,
guy.
no, but Robbie Williams had a mate whose job was basically just being Robbie Williams's mate. I can't remember the guy's name, but he ended up with his own TV show.
Yeah, so and again, I'm being a bit of like unfair on the guy. I think I've seen him DJ before, and you know he can fucking DJ. So who am I to say whatever? But that's the impression I get. Anyway, she's mates with him clearly, and they made a perfume together. Okay, yes, it's very incensey. It is musky and oody, but it smells like those kind of synthetic oud, very sort of saffron heavy when you put it on. It's very kind of sharp, like grapefruity and incense broadly. A lot of her perfumes are a bit like that, actually. They're quite like sharp with resins and olibanum and stuff like that. It's pretty cool, and I got it just for that reason. I've also got another one called Iron, which she did with Anthony Gormley. So
Who's he?
The sculptor.
Is he a chef or something?
No, he's like he does all the the Crosby Beach with all the metal men.
Oh right.
And he did like the Angel of the North and stuff like that.
Oh, the Angel. I saw the Angel of the North up close the other day. I had to drive to Newcastle.
Of course, yeah.
It's bloody impressive, I must say.
Well, that guy anyway. So I kind of, to be fair to her, and again, I know I've just fucking slated her quite badly, but I did say her perfumes are quite nice. She's got every right to have a perfume brand. Who am I to fucking say shit? I quite like a lot of them, and she's done all these cool collaborations with people who are, you know, kind of interesting to me. So, fuck me, really. Like, who am I to say anything,
fuck you.
You know? But yeah, so I'm wearing that today, and I'm really quite enjoying it. But I think a lot of people would find it a bit grating. I don't know. It's that's about it, really. I've spoken enough now, so yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I always think those that sort of role of like the artistic producer or you know the artistic director. I don't understand why more people don't just own that shit, because that's a really, you know, not everyone can do that. You know, it is a role that takes talent and skill and you know a certain amount of like connections and that ability to make those connections, and you know it's not a shitty role. You know, like it's like Victor from Zoologist. You know, he's always said, "I'm just the artistic director." He's owned it, and you know because
I've got a theory about this.
Go on.
I've got a theory about why. Which is the sort of people that are attracted to that role in the first place are congenital climbers, and they always want to reach for the next rung on the ladder, and therefore it's just about the fact that, you know, the people who want to do that sort of role are hardwired to want to overstate their achievements. And so that's my theory. And if you don't like it, I have other theories.
And it's interesting you said actually, because Victor, I don't know Victor well, but I've spoken to him a few times, and he's always come across to me as someone who is very much like wants to stay in the background. You know, he doesn't want to be in the forefront, if you like. So like he's the kind of outlier in that respect.
He's a rarity. He's the exception that proves the rule.
And he's the one that, you know, yeah, exactly, because he's the one that, you know, does own the fact that he's just a director, like an artistic director, and that's that. But to me, it boggles my mind why these people put so much effort into pretending to be something they're not, when, say, what they're doing is already an achievement. You know, it's already a good thing. You know, I couldn't do it. Fuck that. You know. Yeah, that's not that sort of role is.
No, I agree.
Drowning.
I agree. I agree. I think people should own it, but I also think people should, be honest about the limitations of what they do, and I think it's always good to stay sort of in your lane, as it were. Yeah. But while you're up at the Oki, which is a darts term, which segues us very neatly back into the advert about Gravite, and we should probably talk about that some more. Whilst you're up, Ben, is there anything interesting perfume-wise you've been wearing this week that you would like to talk about?
Well, so I have mostly been wearing, through no choice of my own, Lover's Tale by Francesca Bianchi. I won't go on about it because I've spoken about it before, but I made the mistake of thinking, I haven't worn that for ages and it's really cold this week, I'll give that a go. my entire house, me, all of my clothes that I wasn't even wearing at the time, just still smell of Francesca Bianchi Lover's Tale. It is that potent of a stench. It just makes everything stink. And I love it. It's this weird, so I won't go on about it because I have spoken about it, but it is basically this like sort of leather, iris, a little bit floral, a little bit spicy, but mainly there's this like leathery kind of vibe to it. And it just saturates everything. I mean, when I sprayed it, it's turned my skin orange. It's just savage. But it's a great perfume. But I sprayed that, I don't know, 5 days ago now, and it's all I can smell.
Jesus Christ.
I love that perfume, by the way. And I know we've had our things about Francesca Bianchi, but she's got some good ones, and that one is superb.
I love it, but it starts wearing a bit thin after about 4 days. Yesterday I wore the other sort of interesting thing I did wear, but I wore Bois d'Argent, Christian Dior, but
nice.
the original cologne version. I'm assured from Rich Mitch that it's the original. So apparently it was 2004. It was like the cologne version, and then 2010 it was reformulated, and it's been reformulated again since. But yeah, the original cologne version, and I thought it reminded me a lot actually of like a Prada perfume, a little bit less soapy perhaps, but it still reminded me a lot of something that could have come from Prada. But it was great, but I smelled it for about 10 minutes when I first sprayed it, and then after that it was just Lover's Tale again. So mainly I've been wearing Lover's Tale, but
I love Bois d'Argent, but it's not a strong perfume on me. I mean, I can't even smell it after a short while.
So perhaps it wasn't actually Lover's Tale's fault. Perhaps that's just the name.
It's just the way it is. Yeah. Cool. All right, Tom, what have you been wearing this week that you would like to share with everyone?
Well, as an avid listener of Les Odes, I thought I'd try to pull as many together as possible to almost get to the full 14.
You're going to have to rattle them off quickly.
I can't do, I'm afraid. I've got some.
A lawyer. Yeah.
Overstepping the guests well.
I mean, this cunt, he shows up late, and then he tries to do the full 14. Oh,
That's
mate.
true.
Keep me waiting
and then do my own shit
14.
back to me. Fucking hell.
I love it.
Do you know what? It's so strange being here, though, because I've listened to a good part of the last 3 4 seasons?
Season 4 now. Yeah.
Season 4 now, and I've listened to a great many of I've spent hours and hours with you guys.
Oh.
But you probably wouldn't know it.
We do.
So
we
feels
monitor everyone closely.
So forgive me if I sort of go quiet and I just sort of it's almost as if I'm just sat here like tuning into Les Odes and having a listen, which is odd. But anyway, I've been wearing a lot of this thing. Can you see that?
Is that one of those water things from that beauty brand? What are they called? Agamemnon or something? Yes. Abligil. No, I'll get it in. Argentum. That's it.
Argentum.
Agamemnon.
So
I wasn't too far off.
I've met these people a couple of times. They're a really nice company. And they have this card game where it's a bit like tarot, and you pick a card, and that card is pictured with it has a talisman drawn on it. All of the illustrations are really beautiful, and that card that you pick is supposed to be that's your perfume. So it sort of discourages you from what I like doing, which is to smell everything, because you walk up to them and I want to smell everything. But you play this game and you sort of feel like, well, the one that come out of the pack, that's my perfume now. And I can't really look at the other ones because this is the
I'm
one
not being funny, but that's like the finger thing in Regime.
Yeah. Oh well, there's this glasses shop near me, and they call themselves styling opticians. And you go in, and there's no glasses. And they basically consult with you, and then they bring you out like 3 pairs of glasses on a plate, and it's like, we have selected these for you. And I was like, I could not fucking believe this. It's like, yeah, but they all look fucking stupid, mate. Like, they're all shit. Yeah. Your process is wank.
I see. I would take this far too personally because I would then get the perfume and I'd spray it and go like, "Oh my god! Like, what does this say? Like, this is shit. I hate it. What am I? Am I a terrible human? Like, oh no!"
Yeah, but the sorting hat is fucking basically chosen. So yeah, what Tom? What did you get then? You got Hufflepuff, did you? Or something?
So it drew out the everyman card.
Everyman.
Yeah, and I've sort of wrestled with that idea ever since because I never really saw myself as an everyman. I don't know.
Yeah, see, this is what would happen with me. I would have a existential crisis about this.
This is bullshit. You go in for perfume and you come out a fucking psychological wreck.
But so I went back and I did it again, and it picked out a different card for me.
No,
and,
really?
You mean it's not exactly?
You mean it's not actually consistent? Fuck.
And I got Magician this time, and Magician's
that's more than an everyman, isn't it?
Talisman is a. It feels more like an everyman, but if you look, so they've got this like pentagram style drawing of all of the talismans, and everyman is on one side, and Magician is the exact opposite,
diametric.
And so I sort of, I've sort of come to terms with the fact that maybe I am everyman. But maybe Magician is who I want to be.
But did they ask you questions? Is it like a questionnaire when you go in? What do they?
No.
So they just look you up and down.
Pick a card.
Right, I know what you're getting.
No, you have to draw. You have to draw a card from a pack, presumably.
Oh, okay. So it's just random, basically. Fucking hell! Wow.
Pretty
No, James. Don't be so cynical, James. It's not random. It's basically it's some sort of spiritual process that you have to trust in.
Yeah.
So fate has chosen.
Tom, I'm going to be candid. That sounds like a load of old bollocks. But how does the perfume smell?
So I really like this one. This is why I've been wearing it quite a lot, because it's really, really heavy on the cedar, and I love cedar as a note and as a material. And I've had other cedars before. In fact, I've got the Austin's one,
the cedarwood heart,
which is interesting because it comes with a little vial of the material too, so you can get a good idea of what that's like. I think it's Atlas cedar. And so it's really interesting knowing what that smells like and smelling this. It's one of those sort of fantasy accords, I suppose, because what they've done is there's some cedarwood in it, but the notes and the materials that they've used to surround the cedarwood really amplify that smell and give you this very photoreal smell of really high quality cedarwood shavings. So if you imagine yourself in like a workshop, and you've got this beautiful piece of wood and you're like shaving off really fine, beautiful shavings and they're falling to the floor. And
creating a wand, for example.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is like, you're in the magician's workshop, aren't you? That's the idea. And so, there's like orange blossom and I think pepper and there's some, really sort of like hot, spicy notes. But they actually, and you get those off the top. But they go towards creating this wonderful cedarwood accord with some sort of like smoky incense and amber in the base, right? And that base composition makes it feel like some of the cedarwood shavings have almost sort of like got a little bit too close to a lamp and they've started to smoulder. And it's a really nice experience.
Nice.
It's a good one. So I'm enjoying it.
They're all water-based perfumes, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So they have that sort of white. Oh God, what's the word? It's not emollient. What's the word when you have to dissolve an oil in water? You need a.
Is it an emulsion?
Emulsifier.
Emulsifier.
That's the one. Yeah. So they always. I don't know. There's something. I don't know what it is. I find water-based perfumes just feel kind of like wrong in some way. They just. I don't know. I don't know why people would do it. It just.
How does it wear though, Tom? Does it feel different? Is it not as diffusive? Does it go on differently or what?
Yeah, I'd say when you spray it on your skin, it does feel a bit different. It does feel a bit wrong. Not in a bad way, just that it's sort of strange and novel. But once the water has kind of evaporated off your skin and you've got the oils retained there, then it just performs like any normal perfume.
I think Ben's eyes lit up then where he's
worth checking out.
Wrong. He was like, "Oh, that's my wheelhouse there."
Wrong. Yeah.
There's no skank. I'm afraid. It's no.
Yeah.
There's no lover's tale.
Yeah, I'd love to know the other I'd love to know the other talismans, and but the problem is. Yeah, no, I don't know. I find spirituality on the whole complete bullshit anyway. I'm very sort of I tend to view spirituality in the same way as I view religion, as it's all basically a load of bollocks. But I'm aware that people find it particularly comforting and stuff, so I should probably not trash everything about it.
Well, Dan, if you'd allow me, I'm on their website, and could I perhaps suggest either the Sage or the Jester?
The Jester. Do they have one called the Cunt? Because if they do, I'm definitely down
what
for
is
that.
A Sage?
It's
like
a
wise
very
man.
smart, wise man. Yeah. They Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, one of the world's richest men, is known as the Sage of Omaha.
See, I'm not a big spiritual guy, really. I don't know if you can tell, but that
You're more of a guitars guy than spiritual.
Yeah, but no, that does appeal to me. I want to know what I am. I want to know what I get if I go in there and pull out a card. And I know that it's all tosh.
You don't want to subcontract your fucking, your psychological well-being. You want to work this stuff out for yourself, not ask someone with a random pack of cards to tell you.
But did it work, Tom? So you pulled the everyman and you weren't that happy about it. So you went back and you got the magician. So now when you spray it, do you sort of feel like, I'm a motherfucking magician. Let's do this shit.
Well, you said it was interesting what you said, Tom, because obviously you kind of did buy into it to a degree. I don't know, what your feelings on spirituality generally, but you kind of, I like to say, you weren't happy with that first one, so you went in and got the second one. But you were like, maybe I am the everyman, but I sort of aspire to be the magician, which is nice, So you're still kind of like, no, it's not random bullshit. It's like it's the duality of man. There's complexity there.
There might be something to it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's it was strange. I did really like the Everyman perfume. So it's sort of a mossy, citrusy thing. Clary sage, mimosa, cassia, patchouli, cedarwood, moss. But it's also got narcissus, wild daffodil, French wild daffodil, which is a note that's also in one of my sort of all-time favourite perfumes, Everlasting by Zoo. And it did feel like me. Perhaps Dan, you might like it too, actually. But it was a good perfume.
Definitely not an everyman. Definitely not.
See, this is what I thought, but
did
maybe
you get
you are.
Caregiver. See, I'd get caregiver, I reckon, because I've got a lot of care to give.
Oh God, Ben, no, I no, we can't do this because firstly we'll end up getting sued by them. So, okay, Tom, any other perfumes you'd like to talk about? Given that you had quite a long list, I presume.
There's a few more.
Yeah,
bear with me. So, I've never been an Aventus bro. Okay.
Really? I mean, you strike me as such an Aventus bro.
But you're an everyman. So how does that work?
You're an exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, does it? No, I've never gone there, and but I got a travel size Aventus in one of the Christmas Advent calendars a couple of months ago. Obviously, ripped them all open, went through, smelled everything. Like that's what you do with Christmas Advent calendars, isn't it? But yeah, I got an Aventus and I've drained it. I mean, it's gone. I drained it in like a week. I really enjoyed wearing Aventus, and it's just a reminder, for all of the issues that surround Aventus. It's a great fucking perfume.
I agree.
Yeah,
100%. Go on, Ben.
Well, we rip into it, something chronic, but it wouldn't you don't get to that level of infamy without something behind you. Do you know what I mean? Like it is easy just to lay into it because it's really easy to lay into it, but it is, it's a great perfume, isn't it?
It's the challenge with Aventus is not that the perfume's not great or anything, and it's spawned an entire category. The problems are with the sort of the arseholes who sort of get all batch wanky about it. But I agree. I think it's a very easy to wear perfume. Although I say that, I did wear Aventus a few days ago, and I actually got a bit annoyed by it at the end. Like sometimes I don't know. Maybe like Aventus, I expect it to show up, smell really good. Women to throw their underwear at me, and then for me to just kind of it to go away and it's gone. But it sort of hung around all day, which was sort of a little bit grating, and it was surprising and a bit grating. But it is a good perfume. I am surprised that. You're not saying you've never been into it, are you? I mean, you must have surely worn Aventus previously, Tom, or is this your first real experience with it?
No, I've worn it a couple of times before that. I've had a sample, but I've just, because of the whole
hype
around the perfume, it's just not. I do a fragrance blog on Instagram, and what's more to say about Aventus? So I just have to stay clear.
Well, that's true. There's not a lot for people to say. Although nice that you got to experience it and enjoy it. What else have you got on your list?
Other stuff I've been enjoying. Alex 2. I got that in the calendars too.
Oh, Zerjoff.
Really. Yeah, the Zerjoff one. Yeah, that was good. I
quite like that. It smells a bit furniture polishy, right? I'm wondering if Ben and James are familiar with Alexandria 2.
Yes, yeah. So everybody loved it on the groups a few years back, didn't they? And it was like you couldn't move for the shit. It was just everywhere, and everyone was sort of lauding it about. But that furniture policy thing, I quite liked that, and it's in a few Zerjoffs, that kind of like very polished hardwood kind of feel, like lacquer almost. I like that.
I'm trying to think whether I remember it.
I tried the there's an anniversary edition that they brought out. I don't know when they brought it out, but I found it in one of the department stores the other day, and it's basically Alex 2, but with like a boatload of oud in there, and it's really good too. I like that.
Right, James, did you say something?
Sorry, I was just saying I probably have tried it. Let me just see if I've.
You just see you're looking up your reviews.
Yeah, it's rubbish. This everyone who likes it's a cunt. No, I can't find a review of it.
Fair enough. It's rubbish. It's fucking rubbish.
It's probably going back a few years. I mean, there's still people reviewing it in 24.
I do remember that Luca Turin was very, very uncharitable about it, but then he was pretty uncharitable about everything Zerjoff. In fact, he's pretty uncharitable about most things, unless it's like fucking Twilly, and then he'll get bent out of fucking shape about it. So,
no, I mean, it's all Fragnica's fucking up here. Let's see what it's all about. Furniture polish, I probably would like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad, and they were giving away 15 ml bottles in one of the Harrods calendar, wasn't it, Tom? Yeah. What else then, Tom? Alex 2, Aventus.
I tried Sana Jardin have got one coming up in January, a new release. That's called Air of Aquarius. So I got to try that. It's and really nice and neroli with lavender, which I think is a bit of a trick that's already been played. I think that's sort of a neroli Portofino-esque, but it's got this really beautiful sort of Amalfi lemon in the top. It's really fresh, and it's sort of like with there's a nice sort of thread that runs through all of their perfumes.
It's not Age of Aquarius.
The Air of Aquarius, yeah. So that was good. Also tried. So I made a friend.
Friend.
Made a friend. There's a lady who's just moved to London called Daria, and she's like the most prominent fragrance reviewer in Turkey.
Oh right.
So she's now in London, and she's opening like a niche perfume store.
Daria
in Richmond.
Daria.
Yeah, Daria. Parfum Le Dons. Parfum Le Dons.
Le Dons.
Yeah. DANS. I think.
Is she aware that her name's Arse?
Perfume the inside.
And her
Daria.
her store. I don't know if you can see that.
Okay. Oh.
There you go.
Perfume.
Parfum Le
Le
Dance.
Dance.
That's what
dancing.
her web store is called. Parfum Le Dance.
Right.
And she very kindly sent me this sample of Renier's Musky Rain.
Musky Rain.
And it's a good story behind this. So she's friends with Renier, and she helped him decide which of two versions of this fragrance to release to the market. There was one which was more commercial, and there was one which was more avant-garde, shall we say? And this is a sample of the one. I think it did actually get released to the market, the more challenging one. So I've been giving that a go. That's really beautiful.
I like the name.
Nice.
I like Musky Rain. That says a lot to me. I like that.
Yeah.
There's not enough like petrichor rain fragrances, is there? Amouage.
But this sort of what's that really famous musk from like the 70s? This is sort of giving me those kind of vibes.
Jovan Musk?
Was it Kiehl's Musk?
Kiehl's Musk, yeah.
Oh.
Jovan Musk. It's in that sort of like ballpark, you know.
I've got to go get
really
my
good. You
Kiehl's
probably
Musk
like
out
it, Ben.
now.
Yeah.
That stuff is fucking sex.
Yeah.
Sex appeal. You can take your Aventus and shove it. Yeah, good. Okay, so Renier, what else have you got?
I've also been wearing this Oud Cannelle by La Closerie.
Oud Canal?
Oud Cannelle. So Cannelle is cinnamon.
Oh, right, okay.
And the brand is called La Closerie des Parfums. French brand. The founder's called Valérie. And she's basically created this collection of perfumes split into four, and each of those four groups have got one key ingredient. So this key ingredient for this range is cinnamon. And this is a really beautiful, spicy amber. I don't think there's a huge amount of oud in
and
it.
Cinnamon. That sounds nice.
Yeah, oud, cinnamon, and
That sounds Christmassy.
and amber. It is very Christmassy, and it's like I smelt it, and it made the back of my head tingle. It was like one of those.
Nice.
You know you're enjoying it when that happens.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give that a bit of a shout out, along with another shout out just to end to Daria, because she very kindly gave me a sample of the re-release of MFK's Absolute Pour Le Soir,
Oh, yeah.
which I'm wearing now.
Yeah.
So obviously the original came out years and years ago, and I've never smelt it. I don't know.
Very
if any of
pissy.
you
Yeah. I didn't know
gentlemen
they were
have.
re-releasing it. Because
Yeah.
the original was
Yeah.
fucking brilliant. Loved it. Very
Well, that's all
pissy.
Kirk Jean does now, isn't it? He just re-releases shit.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I do remember the original one. I didn't like it, but it's one of those things that I think if I revisit, my taste might have changed. It was too pissy for me.
It was very pissy, but I mean, you can sort of. It's one of those
Get
like you could probably carry it off with like a fucking black tie sort of get up, and just like, hey, that guy.
I get
smells
why people
pissed.
love it.
Yeah, but
I
it's like
do. It's one of them
power
you
piss.
understand. You go, yeah, it's a.
Power piss.
Rich piss. He smells of rich piss, Okay, so how's the new one, Tom?
So I mean, I've got nothing to compare it to, obviously, but I think it's actually I think it's good. I think in some ways it's a breath of fresh air that something like this is hitting the shelves. Talking back to the sort of the tranche of gourmand perfumes that are being released, vanilla this and pistachio that, which is a little bit of foreshadowing, I think.
Pistachio like balls. I think.
This is really good. For me, I'm getting lots of lovely white florals, and it's sort of vintage and powdery. But there's also like a furry dirty sort of amber beneath it all.
Fur as in like
And,
coniferous, or fur as in like hairy, furry?
Like animal fur,
nice.
yeah. That sort of, yeah. And it's good. I think it's a shot in the arm for the market. When this is hitting the shelves, and it can only be.
It sounds like it's not a huge departure. Like because I would worry with the re-release of that they were going to tame it down, but it sounds like they haven't.
It's got a big blast of cumin up top, and I think that's one of the things that it sort of sets it apart. I love cumin in perfumes. I think sometimes it can be a bit too much, but
I think cumin is can be fantastic, but it's not. In a world where perfumes are sold in stores by the sort of the top notes, it's not likely to be a huge commercial success, is it? It's because people are going to go, oh, no, I want to smell bergamot and pineapple and lovely things, and but yeah, it does sound good, and I definitely should try that. Cool. Okay. Well, I just want to shout out a couple of things that I've tried this week, because Strangelove very kindly sent me two annoying 3 ml samples of their new one. I think they've forgotten how many people are on the podcast, so I'm going to have to split those into little bits to send. I think it's probably worth us doing a bit of a deep dive on it. But my prediction right now is that Ben will love it and that James will go. Well. Yeah, I hate to predict your reaction, James, because it's inevitably wrong. But I don't know that you'll be that impressed. But I think for me, it could quite easily have been in a what's that brand you like, Beaufort. If someone had presented me this in a Beaufort bottle, I would not have been surprised, because it's incredibly smoky, really, really smoky, and then very vanillic as well. And it's like a sort of contrast. And I dropped Strangelove a line. I said, here's my thoughts. It smells like someone basically pouring vanilla ice cream onto a sort of a smouldering piece of wood in a bonfire kind of thing, and the sort of the cloud you would get from that, you get kind of ash and smoke, and yet this kind of really intense vanilla sweetness. And it's
what did they think of that description?
I don't know.
Load of bollocks.
They haven't replied. So you're
talking out your arse. That's why you got 2 samples.
They may not. Yeah, exactly. Fuck you. That's why there's no bottle in here. You can't. I'll be honest. It was not my favourite. Certainly it's doing nothing to trouble Dead of Night, Melt My Heart,
Crucial difference
Stars,
though, isn't there, between those and this one?
There is, yeah. So the crucial difference being it's different perfumer. I don't know why, but all the previous ones were by Laudamiel, and this is by Hamkerschmichmoj or something. I don't know. What's his name? He's got double barrel name. Is it? I don't know. He's the guy who did Leighton.
Murati Kashani?
Hamid
I think it's
Murati Kashami. That sounds
Kashani. I think, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, and I'm not being fucking some terrible ignoramus. I haven't got his name in front of me, so I'm guessing at it. It's 3 names, and he did Leighton, which I think he's got questions. There are questions to be answered about that perfume.
I used to love Leighton when I first smelt it. I thought it was great. I thought that black, the pepperiness to it, I thought it was great. And then I started wearing it a few times, and I was like, I'm not sure about this. And then I wore it once, and Jess, my partner, said, you smell like you've got you should have a pop collar, and you're going to a club on West Street, which is a horrible kind of high street in Brighton. And I was just like, I'm never wearing this again, and I sold it.
That's a good call. I mean, it is basically it's for the lads who've decided they don't want to wear Aventus anymore. They're wearing Leighton,
I hate it. I hate it.
I hate it, and I hate all derivatives of it. I've got I picked up a very cheap, very stylish looking Zilli bottle. You know, French, Italian fashion brand. But they had some perfumes that were sold initially incredibly expensively, but they were in TK Maxx for like 20 quid, and I picked up a bottle of it, and it was basically a clone of Leighton, and I just it sort of smells superficially pleasant, but it's just so irritating. The Strangelove is not that. It's definitely not that. But it certainly is it's not Laudamiel's style. It's not an oud fragrance, and whilst it is, I guess, challenging in a way, it feels like the challenge emerges from it basically trying to take two things and smush them together in a slightly jarring way. Whereas I feel like Laudamiel's game is much more nuanced, and he wants to sort of evoke a much more complex reaction than perhaps this does. Now, that sounds like a load of old bollocks, and perhaps it is. But the bottom line, I don't think it's the best release. It's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, and I do think, Ben, you will like it because the intensely sort of smokiness of
sounds like it sounds right up my alley, to be honest. Like ashy, smoky. Exactly. I love all that shit. So
but I think my instinct was, James, for good or bad, you probably wouldn't like it so much. But Tom, you're nodding along. Have you tried this?
I was in the fabled perfume hall at Harrods last week.
Okay. Oh, it's a Harrods exclusive, I think, isn't it? Or it is at the moment.
I think so. Yeah, and personally, I was whelmed. I think.
Whelmed, neither under nor over.
Well, I say that because, Fall Into Stars is one of my all-time favourites. I bloody love that perfume, and it's so good. And the moment you smell it, I was overwhelmed as a rush of blood to the head, and fell massively for it. To have that visceral reaction to one of their perfumes done by an incredible perfumer, and I think he said in his Instagram that it's sort of got the highest dosage of natural oud of any commercial perfume. And I think you can, when you smell it, you can kind of almost validate that, because it's very, very oudy up front, isn't it? And I love that. This one, I was just whelmed. There was no sort of no sort of instant kind of like, it didn't hit me in the gut and slap me around the face and tell me it was, he's beautiful. It was disappointing.
Well, and I think, we did a whole episode about Strangelove, and that was one of the recurring sort of themes, was that, look, you either love it or you hate it, most of their releases. Whereas this, I think it is possible to be sort of, neither love nor hate, which in some ways is maybe of itself a bit disappointing. See, if I fucking hated it, at least I could talk enthusiastically about how much I hated it. But yeah, I will get those samples off, because I think it would be great for you guys to try it as well, and then we could have a proper chat about it. I also got one of the new Amouage bottles, and again, despite my plea for samples, they were not included, so I will be making samples. But the one they sent me is very nice. It's very good. It's called Reasons. It's not my favourite of the three. My favourite of the three, by some way, is called Outlands, which is the Cecile Zerokian one. I've had a friend pick me up a bottle in Harrods this weekend, because it's that good that I actually am prepared to pay retail for it. So, but I will make samples and send those as well. I think I'm having a hard time deciding whether this range is going to be a huge fucking slam dunk, or whether it's just going to sort of be okay. I don't know. Tom, you've got them there, I assume, haven't you? You got
and caveat: these are a couple of days old now, okay. But I was in the hall in Knightsbridge, and made sure I grabbed some that I could take home and sort of experience. And yeah, I think Outlands is really good. Like you say, now when I smell it, it does just smell a little bit sort of like the generic smell you get when you're walking around these department stores. To be honest, it all sort of like mingles together. It smells great, by the way, but that's no shade. But it does smell a little bit like that. And I think Zarokian, this one's the Zarokian. It
is, yeah.
And it for me, it feels like it's her sort of comfort zone. That sort of spicy amber. There's a brilliant one that she did back at the beginning of her career for Majda Bakali, called Mon Nom Es Rouge.
Oh,
and it's really good. It's probably the best one on from that brand.
Ones with the bottles that look like pebbles stacked on top of each other or something. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I think she was very young and sort of like early into her perfume career. But if you look at that and what she was doing, you could almost tell she's destined for stardom because it's really competent.
And it's all come full circle. Cool. Okay, well, look, we have been yabbering on for plenty enough time. Let's wrap up part one, get some sort of lubricant for... No, that sounds wrong. Let's get something to drink and regroup in just a few minutes for part two of Les Oderants. Stick with us. Hello and welcome back to part two of Les Oderants. This week we are talking about whether everything has come full circle, and I'll tell you why I wanted to talk about this, okay? Because I've picked up on this as a trend, but this was sort of triggered the other day by and fair enough, I live in Didsbury, right? So in Didsbury there's a load of very sort of hipstery sort of wankers, but I sort of went out the other day and I noticed every young man, between the age of about 18 and 30 was wearing a moustache, and a lot of them were wearing mullets as well, and like they're all just standing around talking to each other. I mean, I was thinking like, well, why are you not all just falling around laughing at how fucking ridiculous you all look? And they're not, they're just standing there having actual conversations. And so it seems like, old granddad over here has clearly missed the trend. But it seems like, if you wait around long enough, everything will come back in fashion, flares, wide kipper ties, fucking mullets and moustaches, and just honestly I hate it. I fucking hate it so much. But go on, James, you wanted to say something there about...
No, I just always think, like, were mullets and moustaches in fashion even in the fucking 70s or whatever? Because I know a lot of men have.
But were they like ironic?
I think
were they
exactly,
they were born
were they
ironic
then? Yeah, I mean, that can never have been good, can it? Do you know what I mean? Like, I know.
I think it was honestly considered a cool look, and I'm worried that people are unironically considering it a cool look again. Like, these people just standing around talking to each other as though they're normal.
I mean, the mullet has been slowly coming back into fashion over the last sort of year-ish anyway. Like, and I've had to cut a couple, and it makes me cringe. Like, I really hate just leaving that big lump of like fur there, and you're like, come on, man, this doesn't look good. Like, what? Why would you do this to yourself? It's a shocking.
Do you not give them a little consult while they're doing it? Like, come on, man. Like,
well, yeah, they have to be delicate. You know what I mean? Because you want to sort of like suggest, but at the same time, and prod, and so the idea as a hair. You are taught that, like, you should never let anyone actually have what they want. You should always push them in the direction that you want. But at the same time, if they come in and they say, "Oh yeah, but I really want a mullet there," like you your options are limited. You know, they want.
You can refuse to do it.
Well,
for
yeah.
them. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's to be honest, I think it's tantamount to fucking going into a tattooist and asking for the word "fuck" to be written on your forehead or something.
Yeah.
It's like it just shouldn't be done. Any responsible hairdresser should refuse to do it. But anyways, as
Have
you
you ever done a geek pie? A geek pie.
Remind me what geek pie is. I know this.
I'm sorry. There's a lot of references tonight. That show that we fucking love. What's it called?
South Park.
No, the one where they're all hipsters, like you say.
Nathan
with the
Barley.
fucking mullets. It
Bum.
basically- yeah, Nathan Barley basically predicted the future. That's what I was saying before when we were talking about something. I said fucking. I was saying about when we were saying about the talisman's place. You know, they go into that restaurant and they have to put their finger on this thing and it analyzes the mineral balance. And they basically it picks this thing off the menu for you. And she's like, I'm vegetarian, and it's picked like sausage and fucking mash or something. And she's like, I don't want that. And they're like, yeah, but we don't override the finger. The finger fucking decides. So it's kind of the same bullshit, isn't it? But at least that, yeah. Anyway, so
it's basically
so that was
it's the
and
sorting
the
hat
restaurant's
from
called
Harry Potter.
Regime, which is hilarious. That the restaurant's called fucking
Awesome.
Regime. So anyway, yeah. So Geek Pie was like the guy from the Mighty Boosh. That one.
Yeah.
He falls asleep in a load of paint and then he wakes up and he goes for his haircut, but he accidentally knocks the scissors off and it kills the cat, and then he can't finish the haircut because the barber's distraught, so he has to go out and he's got like half his hair's paint, and he sees Nathan Barley on the street, and Nathan Barley's like looking for a look to go out to this night thing, and he goes, what is that like? And he's like, it's called Geek Pie, and he looks around and he sees like posters, one says geek and one says like pie over here, so he just makes it up, and then he gets a Geek Pie, but he goes in the stylist and he's like, draw it for me, and he draws it, and he's got all these fucking paint tins in his hair and stuff. It's fucking ridiculous.
Absolutely.
But anyway,
brilliant. Right. So Geek Pies notwithstanding. See, we've been recording for like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 minutes.
No, but this is all vital stuff to do with the topic,
the amuse-bouche.
which I don't even know what the topic is.
No, the topic is, has everything gone full circle? Right, so I made the point that, mullets and moustaches are back. If you look at films, it's just a load of remakes and retreads and reboots of stuff that, frankly, and they're making Heat 2, for God's sake, mere 30 years after. By the way, I read the book. The book is fucking incredible. It's absolutely brilliant. And
the original movie of Heat is good, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Like, is it called like LA Takedown or something like that? It's like Yeah, but I hope they do a good job with that. But, there's a cyclicality there in movies. My daughter is listening to fucking Milli Vanilli, and she's 17. She's listening to Milli Vanilli, and then I saw this thing the other day about this, like that Brit art, all that new wave Tracy Emin shit, My Unmade Bed. And then the other day, some cunt has sold like a banana sellotape to a wall, and it just feels like old ideas are being recycled. And so my question is this. A mere 7 minutes into the episode, my question is this: are we just recycling old ideas in perfumery? Is that what's happening, or are we breaking new ground? What is going on today?
See, I would, like, straight off the bat argue that, and there is obviously a flaw to this, but I don't think perfume has really ever broken new ground. Like, you can say Gourmand maybe is like the biggest leap forward in perfumery. But that's like what, like 80, 90 years
I think
later.
I think forward is a terrible misrepresentation of Gourmand. Backward is a leap backward.
Well, yeah, but just as like new ground though. Do you know what I mean? Because even now, if you look at I know we're not. I suppose the problem is we're not representative of sort of people as we're the nerds that like dig into it. But the stuff that we talk about now is often. The stuff that we like is often stuff that, it could have come out in the 1920s, and often we praise it because it smells like something that could have come out in the 1920s, so has it really ever been a forward-thinking medium? I'm not sure it has. I think it's always a medium that that relies heavily on like a heritage. I don't know. That'd be my opening salvo.
Ben doesn't know.
That's my opening salvo. So knock yourself out.
Good. Well, I'm enjoying your opening salvo, and Ben doesn't know. Tom, what's going on in perfume these days? And have we seen it before?
Well, I'm not too sure about that, because I think there's a part of the market, a part of the industry that's pumping out new stuff and interesting stuff, and also maybe throwing in there some re-releases and some copies and whatever. We're seeing it all. Fashion is an interesting one, isn't it? Because that is cyclical, and there were people wearing flares in the 70s, and there's shops in the high street today. You can go and buy yourself
to wear with your moustache.
I was wearing baggy cords back in the 90s, like these exactly, and these things are just coming back around and just being recycled, tweaked ever so slightly. The modern mullet. I kind of wish 1970s perfume did come back around, because there's some amazing stuff that was being brought out then, wasn't there? If you think about it, but maybe that was because of who we had working as perfumers back then.
Yeah, I mean, so what are the big trends at the moment? Because I think you made the observation when we were talking in WhatsApp, Tom, that everything is now basically, there's a sort of all-pervasive gourmand vanillic sort of style that seems to be almost ubiquitous.
Do you think that would have been not started, but do you think that would have been propagated heavily by Baccarat Rouge? Because that is everywhere. Like, I still go into the supermarket and smell Baccarat Rouge.
Ethyl maltol whipping through the base.
Yeah, I'd say you're probably onto something there. I think the trend sort of started before that, but I think a sort of acceptance of, like, perfume's got to be cloyingly sweet is somewhat of a direction. I can't say, I mean, I know what you mean, but I think it's been steadily coming in for a lot of years. I mean,
Carolina Herrera, Sexy Man 212. Now that was an overly fucking sweet, cloying perfume, if ever, and that was early 2000s.
And more so for the men, because I mean, those kind of like ones that will appeal to like younger women, or women who like things to be all sort of candied and pink and shit. That was a thing, but then for it to appeal to men as well, I think it's just sweet things appeal to. I mean, unless you've really, really not got a sweet tooth, most sweet smells are pleasant. Whether you think that they're a perfume or not. I think it's only really people like us who are like, I don't necessarily want to smell like that. Or you have a kind of, chip on your shoulder about smelling like a woman or gay. Do you know what I mean? There's that kind of like stigma that like men might have with, wearing things that are just even floral or outside of their usual sort of comfort.
But is that even new though? Because like, you can go back like almost 100 years and say like, or the typical like, you get a lot of people say like the girl in art and all that, but that was like basically based on like a coumarin kind of vanillic sort of base.
Absolutely, it was,
and that's like goes
absolutely
back decades. So
yeah, it does. Yeah.
So I mean, I was just having a flick through my favourite website, Fragrantica, and it's odd. I was speaking to my girlfriend the other day about gourmands. She's sort of quite into spiritual stuff and the sort of the essence of things that sort of goes unseen, And I was talking to her about
this. Does she think you're an everyman or a magician?
She does, yeah. She thinks I'm an everyman.
Okay.
Harumph.
Sometimes a magician, though, eh?
I'm a magician.
God damn you.
What was she saying? She was saying, how I was telling her about my frustration with all of it. My frustration is that you've got these companies that sort of back in 2019, 2020 were pushing out some pretty good, high quality luxury fragrances with big doses of oud, like natural oud, which takes a lot of sourcing, it takes a lot of money, and those are the sorts of perfumes I love, I suppose, which is I'm coming at it very subjectively. But for some, look at a company like Fragrance du Bois, in up to 2020, they were releasing things like Milano, Oud du Bois, Arige, Cannabis Intense, Cannabis Blue, Pure Oud, Borneo Oud, and then at some point they were in 2020 they released that perfume with the influencer Demi, Minuit Demi, right? And I don't think I've tried it, but if you look at the notes, it's warm, spicy, caramel, vanilla, sweet, powdery, coffee, cinnamon. So it's and I don't know if this is. I mean, obviously, Gourmand came about before this time, but perhaps it signalled a move for the brand from doing stuff that interested me to sort of pumping out things which sound like this now: Secret Tryst, Lovers, Wild Orange, Sirène, which is a cherry thing, Tropique, and the new one.
Well, cherry's definitely a thing now, right? And, you can say, oh, Tom Ford's blame. No. It was going way back beyond that. They've got a new Opium Black, which is fucking awful, by the way. The not the new one.
Yeah,
I haven't tried the new one, but I'm sure it's equally as awful. The original one is just loud and fucking horrible. But they've got a cherry one now they've got, juicy pictures of cherries on the fucking advert and whatever, and that's definitely a thing. Cannabis, well, going back to, was that like 2019 or something? They were all releasing cannabis fragrances, right? And they all kind of smelled the same, they're like that sort of spicy kind of it smells, it smells a bit like that, but like, I don't know, it didn't really do much for me, but there is definitely these trends, and it's kind of cheap that some of your favorite brands suddenly pick them up. Like you say, Fragrance du Bois, who I was like, okay, this whole brand is just based around, basically they ripped off like the Tom Ford look, right? So they had a bottle that kind of looked like a Tom Ford bottle, didn't it, really? Let's face it, right? The actual fragrances were pretty good. Some of those first ones that they did were pretty nice, and they were nicely done, and I wanted to slag them off, and everyone was like, oh, I can't wait till you try these, you're going to fucking give them loads of grief. And I was like, no, they're pretty good, actually, and I really quite like them. And then inevitably they start to really add loads to their repertoire, and then all of a sudden they start to look at trends and how does this and how do we stay relevant, and all those kind of pressures that are on brands to suddenly go and do something. And also they might just think, well, we've not got a gourmand in our repertoire, let's start doing gourmands.
Let's do half a dozen.
There's a lot of things that and then there's a lot of things that drive it, and then they suddenly start doing loads of them, and I don't really know what that is. Like you say, it is cycles as well, because it all comes back around, and unfortunately, as Tom said, they're not really replicating the stuff from the 70s and things that were really like powerhouse kind of thing. Occasionally they do, and I believe, right, and it's people go, oh, it's because there's no nitro musks anymore, or it's because they can't use loads of oak moss, or they can't do this. There is the materials and there is the creativity to make shit that will make your big perfume enthusiasts who love all that old stuff perfectly happy. There's just not the will to do it by most brands or whatever, because of these cyclic fashions, right? And something needs to make them happen, and it's the main consumer that doesn't really like that shit, right? We've got to accept that they don't really like that stuff, and we've just got to grab onto the little bits of hope that they occasionally throw to us, where they go back to some of that shit, because I don't think it's to do with materials, and I don't think it's to do with the perfumers that were around.
I think a lot of this goes
That's what
back
I
to sort of, this is almost like a continuation of what we were talking about last week, or on last episode, where, you know,
Aren't all our episodes just a continuation?
Can you remember back that far, for fuck's
with
sake?
Dan saying that, like, the consumer will sort of like lead the charge and force these companies to change, right? Because we were saying that things these days are quite bland and middle of the road. And that you know what James was saying there plays into that, and that the idea that, you know, these 70s fragrances might make a comeback almost seems ridiculous right now, because, you know, because they are so diametrically opposed to what is seemingly the trends right now, which, like we say, is like overtly sweet, very clean smelling stuff. You know, and they were none of that stuff. You know, nothing anywhere close. So, you know, I mean, right where we are right now, I just can't see it ever making, like, cycling back round. But then I couldn't see baggy jeans ever making a comeback. And you know, a couple of years ago, all of a sudden you couldn't move through like tent trousers again. You know.
I mean, I never thought mullets would come back, but you know, here we are.
I'm still clinging on to the idea that heroin chic is going to come back, and I'm finally going to be fucking cool again. It's, like...
it's your time to shine, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Fragrance Dubai is a really interesting example of a brand that I think, for good or bad, I think they launched quite a credible initial set of perfumes. You know, I think you can complain about their pricing or their gaudy sort of caps and stuff. I rather like it, and price is always something that I'm sort of hesitant to get overly hung up on. But I do agree that what they are now doing is sort of being very market-led, and they're spewing out lots of you know, reasonably sort of trite perfumes. I mean, these are not serious fragrances, really, in my view. And, you know, I don't mean they have to smell like fucking horse's ass or anything sort of super challenging. They're not particularly interesting or new or cutting edge. There's nothing useful there. And the same, actually, and fuck me, we can talk all day about Creed, but Creed's latest set of releases are very pleasant, sort of spicy ambers. But I mean, it's like, really, does the world need more fucking spicy ambers? For fuck's sake. And the answer to that is no, they do not.
But you could ask the question, what's driving that market? Because these companies are sort of doing a volte-face to start supplying that demand. But what's causing that demand? It was interesting in conversation with my girlfriend, you know, and looking at these dates as well. And if we can, I don't know if this is a thing, bit of a conspiracy theory, but I do have my tin hat, and I do love a good conspiracy. In 2020, what happened?
The pandemic,
and the pandemic, and it was a big sort of scary thing that kind of, I think, affected people on a deeper level than perhaps we realise, and perhaps the general level of happiness throughout nations decreased as a result of the fear of this thing. Lots of people got into perfumes and fragrances around about that time, and was it something to do with, you know, the losing the sense of smell? Was it sort of like a reaction, a subconscious reaction to, or sort of like?
Well, so there is in fashion history, there is it's a demonstrable phenomena that in hard times when people struggle, they go back to what they know and like. So like traditional like hairstyles and clothing often makes a comeback in times that, like, you know, through depressions and struggles. And so I suppose what Tom's saying there is, like, you know, if, like, you know, the COVID was a particularly tough time, then people are falling back to something that they know they like, that's very easy to like as well, like sweet smells and things like that.
I think
comforting. But what do we do when we're depressed?
Sit in the corner and
What
cry.
do lots of people do?
You're saying eat. Sorry, I was just about to say.
What are you saying, Tom?
What was that? I'm masturbating.
Two at once. Wow.
Some people
multi-dick. So there's
just saying there.
Yeah, no, of course, eat. Yeah,
Eat their emotions.
Eat your emotions. There is a thing as well. Like economically, when when the macro sort of economic trend is hard, right? As you said, the tough times, Ben. What tends to happen is spending on what you'd consider small price point luxuries goes up, right? Because times are tough, so you're not going to be taking a holiday this year. Times are tough. You're not going to be buying a car, and you're probably not going to move house, but you can sort of spend a little bit of money on an indulgence because you're not going on holiday, so you're saving a load of money. What will you do? I'll buy myself some posh ice cream. I will buy.
You need something.
Something small, not terribly expensive. Perfume is a great example. I've got no evidence to back this up whatsoever. So this is entirely, me theorising. But my guess would be, in generally hard economic times, perfume spending probably goes up. That would be my thesis. I mean, I've got no evidence whatsoever to support that, but
no, but it sounds
believable.
Right, and it sounds right about that thing of like comfort eating and certainly things providing you with comfort. And we've also said this before about the price point of things, where you're not inclined to make those big, massive purchases. Like somebody's not necessarily going to go out and buy a Chanel bag, but they might buy a Chanel perfume because it's that easy access to get that luxury that might give you that little dopamine hit or whatever from buying something, and also you get the comfort from wearing it, and you also get that kind of gourmand, like you've eaten something. So I completely buy into that, and I would say that we're right about what we're saying, regardless of any statistics that might say we're not.
I don't really care about your proof to the contrary, but I think what we have just done, courtesy of Tom, is we have successfully unpacked the advance of gourmand fragrances since 2020.
And if we're wrong and people challenge us, Tom's come in and he's the junior guy. He can take the fall.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's fine.
I do think people were sick of the oud thing, though, because I remember, it became where every company would have a new release, and all of the comments were always like, "Oh, another oud," like, "Oh, okay, another oud rose," like we need another oud rose on the market. I do think there was. I think it was time for something. People were
but that has now filtered through. I mean, I suppose it had done a while back. It filtered through to the sort of the mainstream designer market. I mean, even Paco Rabanne 1 million now has a Rabanne, like a 1 million oud flanker, which, by the way, is fucking bogwash. That thing can fuck right off. But anywho.
But also, people are quite fickle and quick to forget as well, because you could go, oh yeah, I was overwhelmed by all those oud roses and was like, enough now, right? Because there was a lot of shit ones, but the good ones were like, yeah, they're good. And then when they go away for even just the shortest time, people get into bringing out gourmands and bringing out all these other things and fucking cannabis fragrances. And then all of a sudden, they just bring out an oud rose that's really popular. I would say probably Dior did that with Oud Ispahan, which is a good fragrance, don't get me wrong, but it kind of came, that wasn't even, there was oud roses like before that. I mean, when was that released?
2013, I think.
13, okay, so it was kind of around maybe the height of it, but there was definitely, that trend was going on before that, and that was one of the later ones to the game, but maybe some that came out like now, let's say, there's some oud roses that I try and I go, yeah, that's really nice, but it's kind of like you've forgotten about how many there were that pissed you off, and the odd one that comes in out of the blue, you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty nice. Like, so I think it's that thing of don't overwhelm people with like too much of this shit. Don't jump on the bandwagon until people get fed up of it. But I'm saying people, this is us, right? Generally, this is like perfume fans. It's not your general punter who probably isn't taking into account what any of these trends or fashions are in perfume, and they don't care. So yeah, it's us that's noticing. Yeah. And I say this a lot, but it's true.
Go on.
Right.
Well, one of the sort of trends, the observable trends, is this sort of this biche vetiver thing, which seems to be popping up all over the place. I don't know if it's the biche vetiver. What's the aroma chemical, James? It's not amberome, is it? It's ambrofix, is it? Is that what it's called? What the thing Biche uses a lot, yeah.
Oh, it's the isn't it the Academy?
Oh, that's it. Yes, that's it. Yeah, I mean that presumably.
I love that. Like, I fucking love that.
That's a fairly new thing, no? I mean, has that been around for years or?
We said this the other week. I think we were surprised how long it has actually been around for. It's not ages. Do you know what I mean? Yes, it is a reasonably new thing, but if you look back, you'll be like, actually, it's been around quite a while.
I bought a fragrance about 3 or 4 years ago called Sahara. I can't remember the name of the brand, but it had like a peacock on the front, little gold peacock type thing. And that had Akigala or Akigala wood or whatever, and that was the first sort of time I'd really recognised it. But maybe that
does seem to be very on trend at the moment. There's the cherries, as you say. There's just this whole glut of gourmands, but none of these feel like things that we've sort of seen before, have we? I mean, is there any sort of cyclicality here? Was really, I mean, that was the original question I was sort of getting at, was like, is there, or do things just keep innovating and changing? And fair enough, you know, you might not particularly like the innovation. I'm not a big fan of gourmands, but you know, gourmands were not a thing in the 70s or 80s, as far as I know.
Well, if we're gonna suggest that our thesis so far is correct, right, and that the gourmand thing is a reaction to where we are in society right now, right? We can look back.
That's a hell of a thesis, isn't it?
Right?
I mean,
we could look back at history and say, like, that then what is coming next? You know, if we were to forecast what's coming, it would be excess and sort of, you know, better times and excess, right? Because that's what tends to happen. So, you know, perhaps like we might see those like large, like big civet heavy perfumes come back in, or would it be excess in a different guise? I don't know, but that was almost coherent.
No, let me try and like replay that, because I think it's an interesting point. I think what you're saying is, look, we have connected the dots with our tin hats on between COVID and the global economy and the rise of sweet, indulgent, warming perfumes, right? And what you want to now do is use that insight to predict the next wave of fragrance based on the inevitable economic cycle of boom and bust.
Right, yeah,
I think that's a fantastic, like, observation or, you know, thing to talk about and predict. But I've no
that is fucking brilliant, but I have no idea. Yeah, okay, good. Well, that was a short episode, so yeah.
There was Ben. There was the little sort of like buzz around Marlou. Did you see that all happen?
No, go on.
I'm sure they're called Marlou.
There is a perfume brand called
which is
Marlou.
And they it's a gentleman who creates Marlou. Yeah, and there's he creates sort of quite muted, down-tuned, powdery animalic perfumes. They're really beautiful. They're quite ethereal. They're quite minimal. And yeah, there's one called Poudre Stars, which is like vanilla lactonic, but it's, very much a musk. And these perfumes went viral on TikTok last year, I think, because I remember talking to Brooke about it just before the Sentiest Awards. And she stocks them on Saint Celier, and this little sort of like buzz happened about these quite animalic perfumes on TikTok, and within a day she was out of them. So maybe there were some sort of early flags of
I would love that. Like if we did sort of reach that sort of boom period again, and the excess sort of went into overflow, and we had that kind of like big animalic stenches. I cannot imagine it ever that making a comeback, just because it seems so alien now. And it, but it would be great, wouldn't it, if that was if that was to happen, if we did sort of cycle back around? Because, like you say, like these things do. That is the way they are. That is the way it always happens. So.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to a point, James, you made about the availability of materials shouldn't be an inhibitor. I mean, it seems to me that if we still have today New York Intense as a perfume, then I don't see how anyone can complain about the availability of oak moss. I mean, clearly it is possible to create a perfume that smells, every bit as brilliant as it used to, but within whatever constraints the perfumers now have.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think, you could argue, well, not every perfumer is Patricia De Nicolai.
No, in fact, only one perfumer is Patricia De Nicolai.
Well, quite right. And I think what intrigued me was when Christophe Laudemiel said that you can just rock up to her shop or boutique in Paris, and he was looking through the window like some kind of fucking feral creature, and just like observe her at her perfume organ, which is mad. I'd like to see that. That'd be interesting. But no, I think you're completely right about that, because that would be my argument. I would point to perfumes like that and say, how much more mossy do you want it, mate? Do you know what I mean? I'd point to, even on a lower scale than that, and my thoughts on self-trained perfumers and DIY perfumers, that they're not at there's levels to it. Do you know what I mean? But if we're talking about mossiness and evoking, that old kind of style of perfume, just look at what's it? Thingy.
What's it? Thingy?
I can't remember her name. Amanda Beagle.
Yeah.
Amanda Beagle.
Beagle. Beadle.
Bedo.
Yeah.
Bedo perfumes.
Yeah.
She made that fantastic Black Dog one. What's it called? Chien Noir.
Black Dog.
It's a great perfume, and it's mossy as hell, and you can smell that it's like real oak moss as well. It's about being able to use those materials within the constraints of the restrictions, and again, I don't want to keep going on about this, but I'm not somebody who is, I'm defending IFRA and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, I believe it. No, some of it is draconian, some of it's not right, some of it's changeable. It's all, they're trying to work through this and get the best sort of balance for everybody. But anyway, I think you can use that with other materials to like boost it, and certain perfumes are just there's certain things that just can't get made anymore, and I understand that. But there's that much creativity, there's that many materials, that's why we should be encouraging the likes of an Akajala Wood. Let me just say, right, coming back to Akajala Wood, because I went and got this. So my first recollection, I was thinking back then going, I bet I heard about it in 2015. I'm sure it was around then, right? So that's 10 years ago nearly, right? And
that's a depressing thought just there.
Oh, yes, rebel.
Yeah, just closer to the grave there, lads, right? So, this one, this is, Dark Rebel. If you look on Fragrantica, this is the first one. I think this is 2015. Yeah, John Varvatos. This is it's by Flores Rue. There's the perfumer. What's his name? Rodrigo Flores Rue. So that is the first perfume on Fragrantica anyway, because there's probably others, but to have Akajala wood in the notes, and that is from 2015. Yeah. Oh,
so well done looking that up.
There you go.
That's quite impressive. Bit of research for you.
Not bad on the old research, but I think another one that I recall, because I think the first time I read an article about it was when it was an Attaque Libre d'Orange. Which one was it? Crucius, that's 2019. I'm sure it was another 2015 one. Let me just find it. Sorry. Oh, it was 2017. There was Un Amourette Roland Mouret. Do you know that one?
No.
By Attaque Libre d'Orange. Anyway, that was another one that had it. So just, I guess I don't know what point I'm making here, but there's quite a lot of perfumes with Akajala wood. And again, I think it kind of made things go in a new and kind of interesting direction, to be honest. Oh, Black Pepper, sorry. Comme des Garçons Black Pepper, that was another one that I recall it being in. And I don't think it has to take on this thing of, because every time we mention these, it's like, oh, it's that biche, that really annoying. I don't think that the Akajala wood is the most prominent thing in any of those perfumes, in the Barwa ones or any of those. I think the whole accord, the whole thing that he's doing, Biche, is this big, spangly fucking roughly incense, but it's like, it's not been near any real incense that you've ever experienced in your life. It's something else. And I think that is more prominent than the base material. Yes, that's driving it, and yeah, you get that. But I think the Akajala wood can be used in lots of different ways. There's loads of other really cool materials. Like when you get into using the perfumes, you I haven't got the ability, but I can see the potential. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can see the potential in the materials, but I haven't got the ability to make those amazing perfumes that I want to make. And obviously that takes training and that takes a long time, but there must be perfumers who are out there who have got really cool ideas that are kind of off the wall, or they go, I can make you a great 70s perfume, but no one wants me to make it because there's no commercial drive to do it.
And I think that is probably the problem. There's bound to be people who can make those perfumes, and I don't think the availability of materials or IFRA is the problem. It's the commercial viability of that stuff. For these big companies who are just looking at it. And
also, can I just put this notion forward as well, that a lot of those perfumers who are modern perfumers now, who are doing stuff, they probably respect that old stuff, yeah, and they probably like it and they might even wear it, but they probably even think it's old hat, right? And they also probably think, if I do anything structurally that is in that direction, if I go, right, okay, I'm going to make something a bit like an opium, but I'm going to modernize it and do this and whatever, that is too conforming to a kind of script, or they're doing something that inherently will smell like that because they're using those they're keying off those kind of ideas, where they don't want to do that necessarily. They might not want those signatures to be coming in because they want to go in a whole other creative direction, or that isn't the way that they make perfume. I don't know. There's so many unknown things that I want to ask perfumers. I want to say to them, why don't you do this, or why are you doing this, or what is your approach, and things like that, because I'm interested, and I don't think those questions get asked enough. I don't think there's enough information, but also I kind of like the gatekeeping, because if they don't tell you stuff, there's a mystique to it that makes you still want, because if you know all that stuff, then it's fucking boring, isn't it? So it's a kind of double-edged sword. I don't really know what I'm saying, but
well, I mean, it doesn't matter. We enjoyed it anyway. I mean,
thanks.
These topics are only very loose kind of structures for conversation. If they were meant to be anything more sophisticated than that, we'd have failed on every conceivable metric. Tom, you wanted to come in there.
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking about what James was saying there. I'd like to say, I'd like to make a point that I'm a big fan of Quentin's work. I think he's like a trend all in himself. Like he's like a one-man perfume trend. And I love what he does. I know he gets a lot of stick on this show.
I don't think he does. I mean, I think he gets
Ganymede,
B683,
B683, Tilia, and then the one he did for Crivelli as well, Tuberose Australa. That's one of my perfumes of the year this year. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
And I love that Tilia one. I love that Tilia one. I sprayed it on something.
Fliss hated it.
And it was in my room. Or no, the vial leaked or something. And it absolutely stank my room out. But I was like, it's amazing. Like, I don't care.
It's so happy. It's so...
Yeah, I don't think Beach gets well, hopefully. I mean,
I love Beach. Yeah. I've always been supportive of Beach.
Maybe we do give him shit. Who knows?
Well, I can't wear that. It's because he's got a funny sounding surname. That's it, really. Yeah, the Bois Imperial was a bit too much for me. Even I sort of recommended that and put that forward, didn't I? Going, it's a good perfume. And then it was kind of run with, it's great. And then it's actually...
I tried the extract of that. It's a bit much. I tried the extract of it, and it's like, it's just... the perfume the world did not need, It doesn't need. There's no need for an extra of that. That's mental. It's I mean, it's just too. It's exhausting, is what it is. I mean, it's a pleasant smell, and for someone to walk past you, right, they will go, "Oh wow, you smell great," but that's them walking past you, not having to endure it for what is essentially a 24-hour period, because that's how fucking long this shit sticks around. And I don't know, it's like Chinese water torture, a couple of drops and it's nothing. People walk past there, oh look, there's a couple of drops on your forehead, kind of thing. Great, it's all good. And then after 24 hours of
24 hours later, and you're like a rocking mess.
Okay, well, look, I don't feel like we've fully answered the brief. We seldom do. I did want to, though, ask Tom, because you did mention the Sentiest Awards. Are you bringing them back, Tom? The world wants to know.
That's a really good question. I've been asked the question a lot over the last couple of months.
You haven't made your mind
up. And the honest answer, is I don't know.
Excellent. What's the cause of this indecision? Just you don't have enough time, or what?
Yeah, I think it's time constraints, energy constraints. I won't go into sort of my life and all of the plates that I'm juggling at the moment. But yeah, no, it's something that I think was a really good thing. I think I made some mistakes in how I pulled it off last year. Some learnings to do, and I think it's something that a lot of people really enjoyed, which was great.
I mean, Fliss was an ambassador there, obviously, on the night. And
I think the biggest mistake. Hang on.
No,
we didn't win.
Yeah,
we
didn't
best
fucking win. That is some bullshit.
What's that all about?
Yeah, hang on. That's just. I've just fucking remembered that. Why the fuck did we invite him on this show? Yeah, good.
Who won it? Who won that?
Best podcast. I can't remember.
Knows. Yeah.
Well, that says it all, doesn't it?
I voted for you guys, though, obviously.
Good. Well, excellent. Well, I think you should bring it back. But obviously, it's easy for me to sort of go around thinking other people should do stuff. So, and I'm conscious that if you're spinning loads of plates and such in your...
What other kind of awards did you have? Just and who won and stuff? No, I remember seeing it.
The best release.
Not very good. So
are they online somewhere?
They should be. Yeah. The whole idea about it was to sort of celebrate all of the creative people working in the industry, not just because you've got awards for perfumers and perfumes and perfume journalists, I think. But it was sort of an acceptance that there's more going on creatively than sort of outside of that sphere, particularly online and on social media, which we all do, right? And, so we had categories like the best photographer, the best writer, the best podcast, the best YouTuber, those sorts of things. Best TikToker.
Best TikToker. I'm reminded of. No, I'll probably. Yeah, the only good talker is a dead TikToker, as far as I'm concerned. What a fucking medium, honestly. Anyway, I was just looking up the Sentiest Awards online, and apparently, Apple brings up a little suggestion that apparently season 3, episode 7 of Les Oderants was the House Cup Guerlain, but it also says, and we also have a little look at the Sentiest Awards recently attended by Fliss, which we didn't win, except we did. We won everything. And that's in our blurb, which is entirely fair. On the Scent podcast, was it? It sounds about right. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Who are they?
Because those ladies are great, though.
I
love what they do.
I met one of them at the Ormond Jane thingy. She was very pleasant, but I mean, obviously they're quite different to us. I assume they're quite different. I've never listened. I don't listen. I just don't listen to the competition. I just pretend they're not there.
I know, you just go on there.
Oh yeah, shit! No, I did. Been rumbled. Yes, I went on the Cologne podcast, the American guys, but they're completely different. I mean, it's come on, they're so different. Their episodes are all about 20 minutes long. We barely get through the fucking intro in 20 minutes. I mean, 20 minutes and we've not even got to talking perfume. 20 minutes, they are wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It's completely different. But they're fun guys. But
bloody Americans and their fast food culture.
Yeah, exactly. Fast food and fast perfume. Okay, well, look, help me try and salvage some sort of sense of summary out of this. In terms of cyclicality, we can agree that there is cyclicality in movies, in art, in fashion, right? But it doesn't feel like there's much by the way of cyclicality in perfume. Is that a reasonable statement?
Yeah, I think so. Well, that would be my premise, is that there isn't a great deal of cyclicality. I think there's always a pervasive looking back to the heritage. I think it is a medium or an art form that relies heavily and uses it as a crutch quite heavily. It's
like
the
nostalgia
of itself. But I don't think there's a great, like you say, I don't think there's a massive sort of call from the commercial side of things to go back to like large 70s perfumes or those sort of. Yeah, not yet. I can't personally see it happening, but then that's why I'm not a forecaster, so who knows? Do you know what I mean? If we look at our boom and bust idea, at the moment companies are potentially playing it safe, and so maybe once they have, once the reins are off a little and they're free to experiment a bit more, we might see.
I think we might see
around, but
more
I personally don't
sports
think so.
Fragrances.
I wouldn't hate
back
that.
To kind of the
I wouldn't
90s.
hate that.
No, I know you wouldn't.
Fliss would hate that.
Fliss would absolutely. In fact, Fliss would have some sort of very physiological reaction to that, as as has been well documented. Okay. James, your final thoughts on the issue?
I mean, I don't necessarily. It isn't cyclical if you look at the progression. And again, coming back to what we talked about last week, where there's certain milestones where things change, but generally they don't keep. It's not like it's not in the same way as fashion where it keeps cycling around, but it does to a degree because everything has to, doesn't it? Really, and there's only so much of things out there, and there's only so much like art that people can make, and there's only so much originality to sort of go around. And I think it's more about like how much you derive from the other stuff around a brand that you can go, well, okay, it's the same shit again, but they've done this, so I've kind of, if you buy into that, then you can make it like new and exciting and innovative to you. You know, if they package it up in a slightly different way and sell it to you, then of course somebody can just come along and go, "That's just another fucking patchouli fragrance, mate. What are you do?" And you're like, "No, but dig into the nuance and this and that." And it's like that person gets that from it, but I might not do, or you might not, or whatever. So it's subjective in that respect,
absolutely,
like everything else. But there are certain things where I think it does, and you know, yeah, that's it really.
Yeah, nice.
I've said enough.
An excellent wrap up. Tom, I mean, obviously you've come on as our guest. You've then bewitched us with this extremely seductive notion that COVID is in fact to blame for the preponderance of vanilla in perfumes. And I think it's a bloody good hypothesis, and we're sticking with it. But in terms of cyclicality and trends, do you think there's any evidence that there's anything that's come back around, or is it all just advancing towards some sort of cakey, vanillic sort of tipping point at the edge of infinity?
Well, I think it's been summarised fairly well thus far. But I think the point I was gonna make was that art always is a reflection of what's going on in society at the time, and I think perfume is an art, and I think we're really lucky to have some really talented perfumers working in this generation, like we did in earlier generations. You know, like Eleanor and people like that. Nowadays, we've got Zarokians and Bishes and those kind of Europeans, and you know. And what's beautiful about what they do is their creativity in switching up and responding to shifts in the market and in trends and what people want to consume and what people want to wear as perfumes. So I just wanted to finish on a positive note that, you know, it's gourmands now, which I detest. I don't want to smell like food, but whatever come next, that's exciting, right?
We're all
because
just waiting for the
something
banana
will
on the
come
wall,
next,
aren't we?
and we don't know what that is yet.
Yeah, the banana
Maybe.
wall. Yeah, okay. I mean,
Maybe.
I feel like I agree with almost everything you said there. The one thing where I take maybe just a little exception is perfume as an art form. And I think perfume can be an art form, and absolutely there's still a lot of that about, and that's to be cherished and all the rest of it. But you know, a lot of the perfume on the shelves in Boots or wherever is no more art form than a fucking, you know, a photocopier spitting out fucking copies of a picture of a, you know, bunch of lilies or something. It's not art. It's just rinse and repeat reproduction. You know, there is art, absolutely, but I think not all perfumery rises to the level of art, and I worry that the big trends are defined not by artists but by, you know, the photocopiers and the fucking you know, the low thinking, low creativity type stuff.
I don't think that would exist without the high art, though. Do you know what I mean? Because it all sort of filters down to that shit, doesn't it?
You have to have the high art to create the thought process that then sort of tumbles through and eventually becomes the thing that people are taking photocopies of.
It's almost like you know, actually saying photocopies is quite, you know, profound, because it's a bit like what's his face, old Andy Warhol, isn't it? You know, it's that kind of like mass production, you know, kind of thing. Or, you know, is an artist, you know, if something's like reproduced loads of times, like that
photography made a massive, like, when
whatever.
you know, when that initially came about, people were like, yeah, they couldn't understand the value of a photograph because it could be reproduced, you know.
Yeah, which is so bizarre to think now, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like, I suppose it's the same with like AI and stuff, like saying that kind of shit now.
Oh God, AI. AI this, AI that. Honestly, if you're not using AI, apparently, you're some sort of bad human. Every advert for every technology product is like, AI, we've got AI embedded. I heard an advert on the radio the other day, I shit you not, for fucking glasses, like spectacles, eyewear, and they were talking about the AI that went into it. And it's like, they're fucking glasses, you dickheads. You're literally trying to fucking cram AI into everything. You're so desperate to say AI that you will literally append it to anything. Eyeglasses. These are your AI eyeglasses. Oh yeah, they've got a computer in, have they? No, they're just like bits of plastic with glass. But fuck off.
We asked the computer what would be the best shape.
And they presented you
exactly. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Those are the twats up the road from me. Right, okay, well look, it's been an absolute riot. Tom, thank you ever so much for being a fantastic guest. We hope that you will come back if Fliss doesn't. At some point she better fucking had though, otherwise there's going to be trouble. But you were a very good stand-in, and I think you did an excellent job. Thank you. And
I was as bewitched by Tom as that waitress was.
Absolutely, it's a handsome motherfucker. Yeah. Good. Right. So look,
it's kind of like a sort of sexy Hugh Fearnley-Whitting still, especially with the glasses. Do you ever get that? That might be. That's not a diss, man, because he's. But you've got that kind of like a bit better looking version of him.
James is smitten. Right. Good. I think let's wrap this up before it gets too fucking alluring. Right, it's been a blast. We'll be back in 2 weeks with the next episode of Les Oderants. Until then, bye.
Bye.